Welcome back to the Proximities Power podcast. Today I got my good friend with me, Dawson Scott.
Happy to be on here.
The one and only. For those of you that don't know Dawson or haven't met Dawson, you're missing out. He's a stud. Dawson, little bio on Dawson if you don't know him. He got into door-to-door sales back in 2014. He started selling for his uncle who owned Romney Pest Control in Texas, right?
Yeah, shout out to any Romney pest controllers out there.
Let's go. Greg Romney. And then he did that for 5 years. His best summer, he did 808 accounts, which back then nobody was doing 800 accounts. Top 0.1% probably in the industry. Over 400,000 in revenue. And then after 5 years of doing door-to-door with Romney, he started his own company called BRD Pest Solutions or Bird Pest Solutions here in Orem, Utah. And he's been doing that ever since 2019, so the last 5 years. And right now they're just about to cross $20 million in annual revenue, which is really impressive. Yeah. So welcome, Dawson, to the show.
Dude, I just feel blessed to be here, dude. I've watched several of the podcasts and glad I finally got to be on. I feel honored. So,
dude, I appreciate that. Yeah, I've been wanting to get you on since I started it, so I'm glad we finally made it happen.
Yeah.
So Dawson, so where are you from? How did you grow up? What was your dream job growing up?
My dream job growing up. Oh man, I think like every other kid, like I wanted to be in something in sports. Like the NBA was always a dream.
Yeah.
But then you get older and realize you're like, oh shoot, I'm a short white guy.
Yeah.
And it's probably not in the cards, but always things that like are competitive. I also like big dreamer. I like movies, stories, books, all those things. I just think always fun to, I don't know, dabble in stuff that keeps you learning, keeps you growing.
Totally. That's cool. Yeah. Sports, same here. Like I wanted to play for the Steelers one day, but that didn't happen, obviously. So grew up here in Utah, right?
Yeah. So I'm from Salem. I grew up, actually I'm more from Spanish Fork. Sometimes I say Salem and I feel like I'm ripping off a lot of the people that raised me, but yeah, I grew up in Spanish Fork, Utah. I grew up around a lot of farmers, but I'm definitely a suburban kid. Like It was fun being around all them, but, yeah, grew up on Disney Channel. Just hanging out down in South Utah County.
Heck yeah. So played sports growing up, basketball, stuff like that. What was your childhood like for you?
Childhood was a lot of fun. I feel like growing up with like my family and the friends that I had, we were always like, again, very, very competitive. I was always trying to like get a bunch of people to come together and doing like an activity or an event. All throughout college, I would do like parties and stuff like that. And I did that in high school. I also, when I was really little, I loved to build tree houses. And there was a big farm right behind my parents' house way back when. Now there's just endless houses in that old field, but there was 2 tree houses that we built up to like 3 or 4 stories. And for like, that was my Mona Lisa for like 4 or 5 years. I was like convincing everyone in the neighborhood to come over and help me like build the tree house.
So it was a sick little tree house.
It was sick, and it was definitely a liability. Yeah. That farmer was smart when he finally chopped the tree down.
Yeah, it's safety hazard. Just getting lawsuit after lawsuit from kids just breaking their leg on that thing.
Some kid falls off the top of a tree or something.
Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. So growing up, what was kind of your idea like as like high school got closer to a close? Like what were you kind of thinking of doing?
So when high school was wrapping up, I honestly didn't know what I was going to do. And the funny thing about me and my like career is a lot of times people are like, my uncle or my mom or sorry, my uncle or my friend or so-and-so got me into like the door-to-door space. And my uncle did. He came and like sat me down and was the one that like showed me the paperwork and got me into it. But my mom actually didn't give me a choice on whether or not I was going to sell. Before he came down and ever met with me, she said, hey, I don't know what your plans are after the summer, but I know you want to go on a mission. And she's like, do you have the funds for it? And I was like, and she told me this probably like 5 or 6 months before, like I was like,
supposed to go on a mission. Yeah.
And I was like, no, I don't. And she's like, well, you're going to go work for your uncle, and we'll pay for half, because at the time, I don't think she thought I could make half. And the funny thing about my mom is she's amazing at moving the cheese, for better or for worse. But she, after, in that first summer, once she heard that I made half, she called me and she congratulated me. And she said, I actually changed my mind. You got to pay for the whole thing. No. So I was like, thanks, Mom. But honestly, my mom is probably one of the biggest people that got me in door to door. Both my parents were really big on like working hard, pushing me to my limits, I think in every kind of field. But the funny thing about door to door is I feel like a lot of moms are skeptical a lot of times.
Yeah.
Being like, you shouldn't do, I don't know, like
yeah.
so-and-so. And my mom she drove me out. She dropped me off.
Wow.
Yeah. She made me do it. So
that's really cool. So is your mom's brother Greg then?
Yeah.
Romney? Okay.
Yeah.
So she had kind of grown up seeing what door-to-door sales did for her family probably, and like knew that she wanted you to do the same thing pretty much.
Well, what's funny, when I was really little, my mom would always call me and she's like, Greg's living on like next to nothing, like to keep his business going and everything like that. But so I didn't really like, the cool thing is I felt like I was in the third trilogy of his story. Like I got to see the tail end when he had made a ton of like, had done well and tapped into that. But yeah, my mom just knew it was something that was, he sold her on that it was going to be really good for me going on mission. Yeah. It's going to teach me people skills, kind of getting into
work ethic, living on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I didn't go on a mission obviously, but I feel like, like this summer is really good pre-mission training, and the mission's really good pre-summer training. I feel like they work together. You know?
Well, the cool thing about both of them is they're just great adventures. Yeah. And what I love about, honestly, like I enjoy summer sales because it's so tied to like everyone pushing their limits. Yeah. Everyone's going to go out and try to like rediscover themselves, tackle some new big task. Yeah. Honestly, if there was a bigger, cooler opportunity, I might go for it. But the thing is and you see Utah County and Provo-Orem area, like it's been such an amazing vehicle for so many people. And that's why I like staying in it. It's provided so many opportunities for not just myself, but also my family and friends that I've got to interact with to help like them grow too. Absolutely. Yeah. It's really cool. Yeah. You basically, recruit kids or young men and they turn into men out there. Like, it's cool. It's like, it's cool. So how did that first summer go? What did you think when you got out there? Yeah. How hard was it? Dude. So, my first day getting to like the office, I was really scared. Where were you selling that year? I was selling in Dallas. Okay. So full circle, I actually was out there this past year in Dallas for my own company. But, and the same office that we're in this year, like my company is actually the very same office I started in. Wow. So it was cool going back this year. But to answer your question, first day, like on the job, I really didn't know what it was going to be. I thought I was going to be hanging out with my uncle, like all summer, kind of doing something. And then I got there and they dropped me off at the office with this guy named John. Uh-huh. And, I remember like going out and knocking on my first door and feeling incredible. Not me. I was watching him. I felt incredibly uncomfortable, with people telling him no. And I was ready to like walk off the door and he'd grab me by the shirt and be like, come out, we're not done. And he'd go the rounds with them. Yeah. And my first sale I ever saw was this sweet Indian couple, that like told him no like 5 or 6 times, but he kept bringing it back around and kept going through. Yeah. And eventually he boggled them down and I was amazed. But I remember the first 2 weeks I was probably one of the worst reps in the office. Yeah. There was a lot of like skills I didn't quite have yet. But the cool thing is like one of the cool things, and I'm sure you've seen this in summer sales, as long as you're willing to give everything and keep going for a while, everyone can get it. Mm-hmm. Every shape, size, totally, whatever you do. But so many people don't, just because they start disengaging at some point. Yeah. But it was honestly, looking back now, I'm reading the Harry Potter, so maybe this is why it's in my head, but it felt like Hogwarts. Yeah. Felt like you show up, you're like, what is this? This feels like a different world. Yeah. But now looking back, I'm like, man, that was a beautiful story. And it was the first year was really magical. Yeah. So first couple weeks were pretty tough, and then you got the hang of things. You just kept
pushing on and made some good money your first year.
Yeah. So eventually I remember I was at a breaking point and like, I didn't feel like I could, I didn't feel like I was selling very well.
Yeah.
I think my uncle finally noticed, like, I really didn't see him in much of the training for the first like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But then he came into the office and he grabbed me by the collar and he was like, "Hey, let's go over here." And we went and met in a room for a second. And we were kind of like, we were role playing, and he said something that really changed my mind. He's like, "People really like you and you need to smile." And I don't know why. I'd said all the things and I was working really hard all day, but I remember in that moment, he just taught me that like the energy that I was giving was so low. And he told me that day, he's like, every door you hit, he's like, make sure that it's just like when you're in the back of the back of the class cracking a joke. He's like, people, you're charismatic, you're fun, people like you. Just remember that. And then that day I actually went out and I started like doing well. And there was a guy named Ari on the team who was, if Ari ever watches this, he shout out to Ari, but he was a crazy funny guy. He was a Hispanic that sounded like he was like from the 1940 like cowboy. He was just, and he'd be like, "Dawson, ever since your uncle took you aside and told you what to do, he's like, you started selling." I was like, yeah. And the funny thing about it, and I think this is anyone in management, but if you're really good at pulling someone up, teaching them that, hey, this is like a transfer of energy.
Yeah. And
then bringing that forward, you're just going to be really, you're going to succeed at whatever you want to do.
Totally. Yeah. Just simplifying it. Like my dad used to say when I was struggling my first summer, he's like, "Dude, just have fun out there, make people laugh. Like just tell them you're the bug guy. You'll get rid of their bugs, and yeah, just be charismatic and you'll get sales." And yeah, that was like the advice I needed to hear. So that's cool. So first summer, you do decently well. Your mom says you're paying for your whole mission since you did so well. What are you kind of thinking at the end of that summer? Like, hey, I'm never doing that again. Like, what are your thoughts on it?
I just remember there was no like long-term plan. I remember just finishing up and just being like, like I did that. That was hard.
Yeah.
And then I was really on to the next journey of like, hey, I'm going to go on my mission and figure that out. And then when I got back from my mission,
Where'd you serve again?
Honduras.
Yeah. Awesome. Spanish speaking.
Yeah.
How was the mission?
The mission was awesome. I learned a lot. And the funny thing about the mission is a lot of times people feel like summer sales and the mission are very similar. For me, it was really different. Mm-hmm. I had to like change my mindset on a couple things, but I learned a lot in each experience.
Yeah.
Both of them were super valuable to me.
Cool.
So yeah, the mission was cool. And the one thing that the mission taught me really, really well was how to work with people. And that transitioned really, really well into the year when I got back, because that was when I got thrown into leading a team. So there was a lot of skills that you just learn having to be with someone all day, and conflict resolution and keeping people together, that I learned a lot in my mission. And I think it helped me that following year when I went out and led a team.
That's cool. So you get back and you just know you're going to go back and sell. And so you just immediately got back and got prepared for that pretty much.
I got back and went to school, and then like my uncle called me. He's like, "Hey," he's like, "You should come out and try to bring some of your friends." Yeah. And I was like, "Yeah, cool." Honestly, I wasn't really even married to the idea, to be 100% truthful for you. But then it was funny. It was kind of like he told me, he's like, "Hey, we'll you can go out and sell," and like there was he's like, "You can bring guys and we'll pay you or compensate you to do all that." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, I think I will." And I started putting the feelers out there to some friends. And initially when you start recruiting, I feel like it's actually really scary. And you can feel like, I don't want to bug people. I don't know if I want to bring the opportunity. But then as I kind of got going, the team leader that was supposed to go out and lead me and my guys, he actually quit. So,
oh crap,
he wasn't going to go out and sell anymore out in Dallas. And so then my uncle called me and he said, "Hey, like, you're going to be the team leader." And for some reason that in my head clicked, that I was like, "Oh, I'm going to go all in on this."
Yeah.
And from that point on, I really wanted to because I felt like it was more of my thing.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, like I really want to I don't know, bring a team on, lead people, and make it happen.
You just rose up from the challenge, pretty much.
Yeah. And
so how many accounts did you do that first year before you led a team?
So I only did, and this is the thing too, I came in mid-June.
Yeah, because you were in high school, so you graduated and then went out. Okay.
Yeah, so we went out in June.
Uh-huh.
I sold 200 accounts from then, like until like August.
Which is really good.
Yeah, for first year.
Yeah.
And then I left, and then up to that point, I'd only sold 200 accounts.
Wow.
But yeah, like there was really no one else that I think was dedicated to it.
Yeah.
We were, I mean, at that point there was we were just kind of smaller.
Yeah.
But that summer I got back, I sold 450 accounts.
Wow.
And I learned a lot managing people that year, who to bring out, who not to bring out.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times people, especially in podcasts like these, don't like to talk about like some of the failures, but
yeah,
I felt like my first year as a team lead, I learned a lot of valuable lessons on like filtering out people that like would add to me and people that would take from me.
Yeah.
So
how did your team do that year?
They weren't the greatest team ever. That was that year. I mean, I was learning so much on like, I at that point, like a body was great to me. It was like, oh, cool. Like you want to come out and sell?
Come do it. Yeah.
And the funny thing is actually after that summer, I was just like, oh, I want to sell. I want to do summer sales again, but I don't want to ever lead or bring people out. Really? I was really out on it. Just because I hadn't qualified well on the people that I brought out. And I loved everyone that came out that year. I think we all still learned a lot, and there was good parts to it. But that next year, I actually got really lucky, and I had a couple people approach me that had known I'd gone out the year before, and their faith in believing that I could do it kind of gave me hope to like, okay, I will try this again. And they were the right fits, and they added a lot to my culture. And basically from that third year of selling on, every year the teams got better, the environment got stronger, and I just felt like you learn slowly over time. I think everyone loves to think that like you can go from like one guy to like 1,000 in like one summer, but there is some level of like building an environment, a leadership, and a culture that just takes time. Mm-hmm. And once you get it in place, it does snowball. But those first 2 or 3 years, it takes a little bit of energy to kind of get the ball rolling. Yeah.
Like there's a learning curve to learn how to sell door to door, and there's a learning curve to leading a successful team, I feel like. Cause I remember so you led a team your second year. I didn't lead a team till my third year, but dude, I was way too focused on my own sales. Like didn't really know how to train guys. Wasn't super picky on who I brought out there, and it was a bad experience for a lot of them. Like I felt bad, but like I did the best I knew at the time, you know?
And you almost need to like, there's some lessons that you really do have to learn just by going through it. Yeah. And, it's kind of tough when you're managing somebody else though, and helping them through that process, and you can see them making the same mistakes. And it's cool when guys listen, but sometimes two people do need to learn. Yeah,
totally. So had some good lessons your second year, still sold well. And then third year, fourth year, fifth year, better teams every year got better pretty much.
Yeah, no, we grew, and the teams got like bigger and bigger.
And did you drop out of school after your second summer, or what was that like?
No. So, I mean, I was only going to school to date. Okay. Like that was the big reason why I was going. And I thought I was going to I was like, oh, next year after the summer, like I'll probably get married. I'll probably find somebody. Yeah. And then like I got right there on the door of graduating, and I was like, shoot, I'm going to finish. Like I got this close. So I graduated, from UVU. I don't know what matters more though, that or my Eagle Scout degree. UVU is kind of less, but I got it. So nice. I graduated from UVU.
What did you study at UVU?
Marketing.
Okay. I didn't even know that. I didn't even know you went to 4 years of school. That's cool. Dude, that's cool. So, okay. One thing I think like I want to touch on, dude, I feel like you've always been really good with your money. And like, where did that come from of like understanding money and like using your money to buy assets that pay you more money and that whole thing? Was that natural, or when did you learn that?
I feel like my perception of money has always been that it's a game. When I was little, I remember playing like Monopoly
It's the best.
and the sets. And I think a lot of times with money, people get very emotional.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the cool things about viewing it as a game is it keeps everything very logistic.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can put it away better and stuff like that. So that's always helped me just remind myself that, hey, as long as I stack this right and put this in the right way, things will kind of start snowballing, right? I also had a lot of good people around me to kind of pull me in and help me put my funds where I needed to go.
Yeah.
One of the coolest experiences for me, kind of starting out in investing and figuring out where to put my money, my dad actually came to me before my first summer, and he said, "Hey, if you can get $100,000, he's like, I'll help you find a place to put it to make." I think it was like $2,000 at the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, so like, how does it?" And he's like, "It'll be $2,000 in interest if you can make
per month
that much money."
Wow.
And I was like, "Serious?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, and it blew my mind. I was like, "So wait, I won't have to go work like a 9 to 5. I can just make interest off that."
Yeah.
And I remember that for me unlocked a lot of keys in my head to just be like, okay, like if I can do that once, the funny thing is I was like, I'll do that and then I won't work.
Yeah.
And then it's just like anything. Once you get that certain zero behind your paycheck, you want to go chase the next and the next.
Yeah.
So
you kind of got introduced to investing early, like in your career, and you just kind of, you did it and then fell in love with it pretty much.
Yeah. It's fun. I mean, you're amazing at it too. You do a great job of rolling into homes, different stuff like that. And I just think, yeah, it was just a fun game that like I still enjoy today.
Yeah.
It's always fun, like stacking the Legos up a little bit bigger and see if you can't build something nice.
Right. It's fun. I tell everyone, like, everyone's like hesitant to do their first, like, let's say real estate deal or investment of any kind. And I'm like, just get in the game. Like your first deal is not going to be your best deal, but just get in the game, go learn before you do it. And then once you start getting those monthly checks every month, you get hooked and you just want to go play the game better and bigger, see how big you can stack the Legos.
Well, and it's funny, I'll see a lot of people when you talk to them about investing and they'll get super scared to pull the trigger on their first home or pull the trigger on anything.
Yeah.
And once they finally do it, they're just like, oh man, like now I want to do on the next deal and stuff like that. But it kind of takes the first deal to then build into the second and the third and the fourth.
Yeah.
So taking action is just a really big part of it.
Yeah.
I'm reading the Harry Potters right now.
Yeah.
And there's a quote that I love that Dumbledore says to Harry. He says, don't dwell on dreams and forget to live. And I think a lot of times people with investing, they love to sit and think about where their money's going to go instead of like just putting it to work and taking the best course of action forward.
That's cool.
And so I think there's a lot of crossover there of just being like, follow your gut, make the best educated decision you can. But some action's better than no action a lot of times. Totally.
Love Harry Potter. Yeah. Read those books when I was little, and my wife makes me watch the whole series on a whole series of movies every year, and it's fun, but and she hasn't even read the book, so I'm like, you're not even a real fan. But dude, this kind of goes into the next thing I want to talk about. Do you believe that proximity is power? And if so, how important has it been to you in your life?
100%. The times when I've put the right people around me in business, in my spiritual life, in my social life, I'm amazed at how much further and how much faster I grow. There's been a lot of times when I try to like just put everything on me and just make sure that like my internal system's good, which that gets you far. And that's also how you can contribute to everyone around you. Yeah. But the biggest stages of growth have been when I've been really good too at making sure I'm reaching out, I'm pulling the right people in, and also just like learning and listening. Yeah.
That's cool. Love that. Dude, cause proximity helped you a lot. Cause like your uncle and your mom got you in door to door. Your dad helped you invest, and now you're just running the ship. Wow. So I guess like your first 5 years, you're making good money, you're leading successful teams. What kind of sparked interest in starting your own pest company? Did Greg talk you into that, or how did that whole thing come about?
So I actually did that, 2 parts.
Yeah.
The first part was I was finishing school.
Yeah.
And, I wanted to like focus more on dating. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, I'll buy a truck. I'll just work at them. And at the time I had a house in Vineyard.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll just run it out of my garage. I won't really bring out a team. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'll date more and I'll sell 400 accounts.
Wow.
I'll do it kind of like as a part-time thing.
Yeah.
And then what happened is Zeke.
Yeah.
It's funny. He a guy named Steven, a guy named Hayden, and a couple other guys approached me. They knew I'd sold because they'd heard it from like my hometown and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm thinking about selling. And it was actually for a long time, I was like debating on whether or not I was going to like actually
hire people to come sell.
Hire people because I wanted more personal time.
Yeah.
And obviously I ended up choosing to like take them on and do it. But there was a good 2 or 3 months where I was like, I think I might not bring them on. I might.
Wow. And I didn't know that. You just were going to keep it small and yeah.
Yeah. And then, I brought them on, we went and did the thing, but for a long time, I really wanted to slow down. I felt like I'd really killed myself, like in the first 5 years with Romney. And the funny thing is that when I actually started, my dad for a long time he was like, I don't know. He's like, I don't know if do you want to be a business owner? He's like, there's a lot of hoops and different stuff you got to jump through.
Yeah.
But I've enjoyed the ride. It's been fun. And, I think looking back now, it was the right decision, but there's been many times when I was like, I don't know.
Like, I don't know if I should have done that.
Yeah, there definitely has.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I thought it was going to give me a lot more free time and ended up taking just a lot more.
and ladies, he's still single. No. So hit him up. He is an eligible bachelor. So
my Instagram now.
Yeah. We'll link it down below. Dude, that's awesome. So, okay. And now you've been with Bird, doing Bird for the last 5 years. How did that first year in business go?
It was really scary. So my first year in business, I'd always done the sales side. But like, and I'd seen my uncle and I'd asked a lot of questions all along, like working, like how he did it.
Yeah.
But I was always really afraid of like the balance sheet. I wanted to make sure that like everyone could get paid.
Yeah.
And then 2, that everyone like was learning and growing and it was a good environment. When you're first hiring like W-2 people, like people that come in and work in your, like work in the office, which the first girl she was working out of my front living room. Mm-hmm. And, like my first two technicians were my best friend from high school and then, my cousin. And so everyone in the beginning, like they all kind of knew it was very small, just like we were all doing it out of a house. And it was funny because initially I was like so scared about like bringing more people and involving them because you're like, can I pay them? And then when I took that leap and kind of went into it and made it happen, you find a way and you work really hard at like making sure that everyone is growing and learning and things work out as long as you understand and know your books and you've got everyone's best interest in mind. Wow.
That's gold.
So
yeah. Keep cash in the bank pretty much and take care of your people.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times in business, I think a lot of people do get excited, and they'll get excited about one part. Mm-hmm. Like they'll be like, oh, we're killing it over here. But I've noticed that like maintaining a business or maintaining any kind of culture, it's kind of like a garden. Like you got to water it. You got to make sure it gets the right light. You got to make sure that like you're pulling out the weeds around it. And it requires attention like every day. Mm-hmm. And I know this because I killed a bonsai tree this past summer because I wasn't doing those like watering, making sure it had sunlight. I was too busy running around doing stuff in the business. But focusing really, really in on making sure that like, I think a lot of times people want a big thrust of energy. Oh, I just want to throw myself into just this section. Mm-hmm. But in order to keep things growing and healthy, you got to give a little bit of attention to a lot of things consistently.
Really good.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone that wants to be an entrepreneur or start a business?
People are everything. I've seen a lot of people start businesses, and at different parts along the way, they'll forget that important part. I've talked to many business owners over like the past like 5 years, like other people starting businesses, other industries and stuff like that. And whenever in the conversation, I can tell that someone's not trying to take care of the people that they're with. They're trying to backdoor them. They're trying to figure out a way to muscle somebody out. Mm-hmm. That's when I typically know things aren't going to go well for very long. Mm. I've seen people get an edge out on stuff like that for maybe a quarter or a year, or maybe could get ahead.
Yeah.
But those people on a long-term track,
yeah,
they're going to run out of steam. Mm. And so I think just focusing really big on, do I love the people around me? Are they all growing? Are they all learning? That's the best way to keep your business growing. And you can't just say it. It can't just be a slogan. You have to feel it. And I think a lot of times people's hearts will say, like, people will say it with their lips, but with their heart, you can tell they really, really don't mean it.
Yeah.
And you're a great example of someone that like really does love and care for your people. But the people that I've been around that I can feel it, even the ones that don't say it, but I can feel it. That's how they are. Those are the people's businesses that I've seen take off. Those are the ones I've always tried to emulate and follow.
That's cool.
So I think that for me has been the biggest key.
That's such a gold nugget, and it's so, like underestimated. I feel like all business owners would say, I have my employees' best interest in mind, when they really don't most of the time. But like, I've seen Dawson actually live that. Like he actually does take care of people, and he does make sure it's a win-win, and like that he does put their interest before his own. So that's really cool.
Oh, thank you,
dude. And I feel like Todd Peterson's like the GOAT, OG and door to door. And that's like one thing it's like a reoccurring theme every time I hear a podcast from him or he speaks, is like he got this lesson from his dad, who was an orthodontist, and he said, treat your people like gold, because if you don't, you're not going to succeed in business. And like, and it's just like the golden rule, like just treat people good, and good will come back, Can
I say something on top of that?
Yeah.
My dad once told me, I was like, Dad, why do you work where you work at? And he says, he's like, I've seen, he works with a guy named Kip. He's like, I've seen Kip treat, a lot of people better than they should be. And he's like, and that's why I've seen his business grow, and I've seen like him learn and progress.
That's cool.
But the funny thing is as soon as I brought that out and told that to like some other people around me, like I heard, you regurgitate what your parents say.
Yeah.
And I said that, I was like, oh, like if you want to run a business, you take better care of people than they should be. And you have to do that within reason. You can't just be throwing money around, or
right.
That's going to cause other problems too.
Right. You got to watch the balance sheet still.
Yeah. But, like I was shocked at how many people that I loved and cared about that gave that idea a lot of resistance when I kind of said it. But there's going to be moments in any kind of business where it's going to be very, very tough to make that decision. Like there's been moments in my business when like, it's time to like pay people, and you've got to like, you can forget that really quick and be like, oh, we're going to try to like X someone so out, or this or that. And like in those moments, that's when you have to have the bravery to be like, hey, no, like we are going to keep, it's easy to say in a podcast like this, but it's so much tougher when like you're not well fed, you haven't slept very well, and like you have a bunch of people breathing down your neck. That's when it's the most important to be like people first. So,
wow. Yeah. Gold.
Yeah.
That's awesome. While we're still talking about business and door to door, I want to ask you, what's your best advice for a rookie sales rep?
I think everyone in the beginning takes it too serious, especially males. I feel like girls have an easier time of being like, oh, like I'm here, like, yeah, we'll see how this goes.
Yeah.
And I think you have to have a little bit of that when you're going out and selling your first summer. I feel like a lot of times people get a lot of their identity from like, am I doing good or stuff like that? No one's great in the beginning. just be yourself.
Yeah.
Have fun with it, because the minute you can like give 80% of your mental and emotional energy, but save that 20% to like see the other nice and fun things around you, you're going to sell so much better.
Yeah. Just take the pressure off a little bit.
Yeah. Because I honestly, I've seen that pressure suffocate a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I've seen it, people taking it so serious that they're not able to just take the next step forward.
Yeah, you see that a lot. Like reps that think they're going to do so well right out of the gate, and then they get out there and then their friend's selling more than them. Then they get in their head, they stop working, they get negative, and then they're not showing up on the doors with the right energy or state, and then they just get in this negative loop and then end up quitting. And it's like, bro, come on, like see the bigger picture. Everyone goes through the learning curve differently. And just because your friend like starts selling faster than you doesn't mean that he's going to outsell you in the summer unless you quit. Like, you know.
Well, and when I was playing basketball when I was little, I was actually downstairs, and I feel like I've talked about my dad a ton on this podcast, but I'm just going to do it again. I was playing basketball downstairs, and he came and he was like, he's like, Dawson, come here. And he's like, you're never going to be the tallest on your team. You're never going to be the smartest. You're never going to be the strongest. He went on, and then he was like, the only thing that I know that you have a gift for, you can do, is you can outlast people. And I feel like that because he told me that, I don't even think it was at the time. I was like, I don't even think I can outlast people. Right. But he's like, that's your gift. That's what you're going to be good at. And I just remember being little and just taking that to heart, be like, okay, I will outlast. I will outlast. And I think if you have that same mentality when you're going into door to door, just be like, you don't have to be the best,
right?
But can you stand there the longest?
Yeah. Can you just finish the summer?
Yes.
Because, dude, if you finish the summer, you probably do about average, and average is really good in door to door, you know? And then if you outlast and not quit after 1 year and you're in it 2 years, 3 years, give it like a serious 5-year plan. Like you're going to be in a really good spot if you can just outlast.
100%.
That's good.
And success takes time.
Yeah.
And so many people want to sell you these man-made like lotions and potions that like they'll get you there quick.
Yeah.
But anything I've seen, any kind of field, the long, hard, stupid way is like really the only way.
Yeah.
You really do have to commit to success over an extended period of time in whatever you want to do.
Dude, and I've seen you outlast. Well, I didn't know you your first 5 years, but like when I first met you and you just started Bird, I was like, this guy's a grinder. Like he doesn't stop. Like he's just going. And dude, just seeing you the office and this summer, like, bro, you're outworking everybody every day.
And I've honestly seen that with you. Like this past, like it's just so everyone knows on this podcast, one of the things that I thought was amazing. So Gage went out, sold this whole summer and like recruited a massive amount of people. And I come back and it's literally like, I just got back from Texas. I'm pulling into the office. I'm like just getting my things all out. And I look to my right and there you were with like a dude leaving your office, like you just met with for a meeting, and a guy coming in.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing that I hope people like, one of the biggest things that I think you have that I hope a lot of people can get is just that understanding of how important people are and coaching them up and learning. And honestly, I think your even bigger gift on that is you love it. I've seen a lot of guys try to like, I want to teach guys, but I can tell at the end of the day that they really don't love it. And I see it with you that like you have an appetite and a desire and like an enjoyment from like pulling someone in, showing what the opportunity could be on a whiteboard, and then taking them there.
Dude,
and
I love it. I really do. Dude, I appreciate that though. I feel like when I first got into door to door, it was like, I need to go get mine. And like, it was all about me, my sales, everything. But what I realized after my third summer and my first year leading a team is like, I'm the only one, me and my brother are the only one coming back just because I didn't give my reps like a great experience. And I'm like, it's cool, I made money, but like, if I can't, like I've mastered the skill, but now I need to go help others master the skill. And I'm like I really just wanted to transform my leadership ability. And like, I feel like this job's so cool because Casey says it all the time. He's like, business is a spiritual game. Leaders save more lives than surgeons. And they have the opportunity to, at least. I wasn't saving any lives my first year leading, but and then he says that, like, I say this all the time, but the best form of dignity you can give another man is teach them to become economically self-reliant. And I seriously have seen so many lives transform from this job and like the skill set. And it's been cool to be part of like other success, like seeing my brothers crush it, buying real estate, seeing my cousins, my, friends, best friends. Like, I'm going to talk about one of my rookies, Joe. I met him at Discount Tire and he liked my truck, and I met with him, and from the first time I met with him, he's like, Gage, I'm going to be your best rookie you've ever had. Like, not just this year, just like ever in my history. And like seeing Joe just have the ambition and the desire, and like giving like that meeting with like the opportunity to go crush it. Like, he's going to make more money than he ever has in his lifetime this year. And like, to see his transformation and growth and just confidence and belief in himself is just, dude, there's nothing better.
Well, one thing cool about Joe, and we talked a little bit about this, but he can outlast anybody.
Dude, he's a dog.
He came to every training. He showed up. Yeah. He showed up the first day. He stayed out later than everybody else. Yeah. I really, really respect Joe just for that. Yeah. Because so few people can.
Dude, yeah. Like, there's a lot of people. Like, it's easy to say, yeah, I'm going to be the best rookie you've ever had, but then the next day comes time to train and no one shows up, but dude, he was there. He was asking to train more. He's at the office more. He worked harder than pretty much anyone on the team this summer. And dude, he's a stud. So, yes. Dude, we talked about this a little bit, but who are some of the big mentors along the way and why? You talked about your dad a lot so far.
Mm-hmm. My dad was huge. My uncle Greg was awesome. One of the things that he honestly taught me too is just, he was a really big example to me of showing up through the entire day. I think a lot of times people in jobs, you don't learn this. I think they don't tell it to you, but you learn from your environment. It's kind of the proximity thing. And I think all growing up, you see how fast your teachers are working. You see how fast your mom or your dad or other people around you are working. And one of the cool things that I noticed about my Uncle Greg is, in his business, up to like the very end, he was the branch manager of his Dallas office where he operated. So he would get up at 6 a.m. and go in with the technicians. He would handle complaints, get with all them. After it was 6 a.m., he would go through and meet with the office girls at 8. And after we meet the office girls at 8, he would get everything going. And then back in the day, we sold from 9 to 9. Yeah. So he would then come in at 9 and then meet with all of us.
Sales guys.
Yeah, and then there's other things, like I think a lot of times with business owners, and I've stopped like fighting people on this. I think a lot of times people think, oh, like they're just sitting back somewhere sipping pina colada, not really doing anything. But then there's so many other things of like marketing yourself, funding, figuring out how to like make the business all keep running, and then the complaints and the problems that come up through all three of those camps.
Wow. And
I was amazed. I remember it was hard for me to just go from when I was supposed to be there as a sales guy, but then I would see him like early working, and then late. And then it just taught me. And in the beginning, I remember when like my first summer, I went and looked at the leaderboard of like his past summers and my uncle Grant, who sold for him his past summers, and he has a business now too. But I remember like seeing someone actually going out and working really hard is the best way to teach someone to work really, really hard.
The example.
Yeah. And like, it's contagious and you learn it really, really quick. So
that's cool.
I think that's an important thing, is like learning through that, just being around people that work hard. It sticks to you really, really quickly.
That's cool. What are some things you wish you would have known before you started your journey? Or are you glad that you went into it as naive as you did?
I wish, I kind of talked a little bit about, I wish I would have had more fun in the beginning. I wish I wouldn't have taken as serious or as hard. The other thing that I wish I would have done, or I guess in the beginning, I wish I would have taken more action than I did. And I think a lot of times when people think action, they think just doing a one-dimensional thing really, really hard. Like if you're supposed to go out and knock, I think a lot of times people think, well, you're just supposed to go out and knock all day. And that's true, but I wish I would have, like, after I knocked a door and things didn't go well, I wish I would have, like, went to my iPad and been like, okay, she said this is where the conversation fell apart. I'm going to do that different. And then go to the next door. And I wish I would have, like, because I was never a guy that, well, like when they said, hey, you got to go out and work all day, I was knocking doing every whatever. But I wish I would have challenged myself on every aspect every single day faster than I did. And I've gotten better at that over time. But I wish every day I would have been like, okay, how am I showing up mentally today? How did I show up emotionally? How did I show up physically? And just making sure as long as you're good at, like, showing up in, like, 5 or 6 different fields like that every single day, you're going to build some serious muscle in each of those categories.
Totally.
And no one's going to keep up with you.
Totally. Like everything's firing on all 4 cylinders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of times we want to just focus on one.
Yeah.
And I wish I would have gotten better earlier at being like all the different fields, all the different goals you set at New Year's.
Yeah.
Putting all those in, like, all those different categories and just making sure each day, because we always check them on, okay, how am I doing in all these different categories?
Yeah.
On January 1st. But I honestly, in my day to day, I always, like, in my prayers and stuff like that, I'll be like, hey, like, please help me show up today emotionally for people, spiritually, physically.
That's cool.
So I think that's an important thing.
I never thought about that. That's really cool.
So, yeah.
What are some of your favorite habits?
One that I've put on recently, or I've gotten really, really big on. I read this book called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, where basically the book talks about, in today's culture, going really hard, grinding fast, being obsessed. It's the big one. That's the one that everyone, like, talks about and preaches. And this book's a counter argument to that. And it's not that you shouldn't work or you shouldn't be hard or anything like that, but it talks about going at the right pace that you need to go. And it's a Christian author, but he talks about how he poses a question early in the book where he talks about how many hours a week do you think Jesus worked? And I think a lot of times when I pose that to other people are like, Jesus never stopped. He was always 10,000, like he was giving everything. But then he goes on to talk about how, like, he would go away for a time, or he would sit and ponder, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's just important too, to realize that you are going with all of yourself into things. Because sometimes I've ran myself so quickly that, like, hey, I'm only working physically on this.
Yeah.
I'm not working mentally, emotionally.
That's cool. And just being present.
Yeah. Because sometimes even like in my day-to-day right now, one of the biggest struggles I'm having is, like, dieting. Like, sometimes if I go too hard in, like, my workspace, all of a sudden I'll know that, like, I'm not eating as well. And then I actually won't have as much energy the next day just because I've let that slip. Yeah. So I just making sure all those are, but there's also the other side of it where people start to use that as a negative defense where, I need to get my sleep. And you're like, well, but also all these things got to get done. You can't just be sleeping all day, bud. Right. And you'll see the tough thing is there's people arguing from both sides. Yeah. And they're both right, but you have to find with you and whatever, if you're a God guy, if you're a universe, whatever's the real answer. Huh. And it's tough to find.
That's interesting. Yeah, dude, I feel like I'm always in a rush, bro. Like, I have to end my meetings on time because I have another one right after it, and it doesn't allow me to stay present sometimes. So that's something I'm trying to figure out and navigate, but that's cool. I'm gonna check that book out.
It's a good one.
Okay, here's a funny question. What's something you've done that we should all do?
I'm trying to think. I really like my in the mornings lately. And through the summer I sometimes fall off, but lately I've turned off my phone and I get up and I bike or I run first thing in the morning. Cool. And just getting that sunlight, also giving my mind time to, like, go to the world rather than have the world start with me and
come to you first. Yeah, that makes sense.
My email, Instagram, text, all those things, if I'm checking those, and the minute I check my bank account first thing in the morning, like making sure that everything's there, everything's right, and we're all going, if I check any of those 5 things I just mentioned early in the day, my day is shot. And I think there's times where you have to, like, you like, have to run into it. But like the practice of more often than not, I'm going to start thinking through things, going and then running into it I think it's important.
That's cool. This part of the show, it's called 3, 2, 1 Pivot. So what are 3 books that have impacted you the most and why? 2 people that have impacted you the most and why? We kind of already touched on that one, and then 1 quote that you live by or impacted you the most and why. So let's start with 3 books.
3 books. So Outwitting the Devil.
It's a great one.
That was phenomenal.
So good.
The concept of not drifting is so big, especially because a lot of the world drifts.
Yeah.
And that one's a great one. Outwitting the Devil's one. The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, that one I brought up. That was honestly one of my all-time favorites.
When did you read that one?
I've read that 3 times.
Okay.
So it's something I've struggled with my whole life. Running a little faster than I should.
Okay.
That one's a really, really good one.
Cool.
And then I read a book, and honestly, I'll just say the author. His name's Timothy Keller.
Okay.
I've read multiple of his books. He has one called Prayer. He has one called The Prodigal God, which is good.
Yeah.
But all of his works I've really, really loved.
Awesome.
They're just, he kind of keeps life, I think, in a good perspective.
What's his name?
Timothy Keller.
Timothy Keller.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Okay. Two people. I mean, you've kind of touched on this one, but
I'm gonna go my mom. So one of the coolest things about my mom that I really like is she's a person you can always tell her heart's in the right area where it needs to be. And sometimes like she'll mess up or make mistakes, but when she does make those mistakes, it's so much easier to forgive her or like look past them because you can tell her heart was so committed.
A good intent.
To do what was right. And so I think well-intended people go further in life than people realize. So
totally.
My mom probably on that. And then another person that was really big for me is my grandpa. I think one of the cool things about him is he was always really good when like distractions or life like were coming at. He's always someone I'd call and be like, hey, I'm in the middle of this. Like, what should I do? And he kind of had like a wise old like wizard about him. He was always really good at just being like, he had a great one-liners, which I'm a big one-liner guy. Like I love like a cheap trick and a cheesy one-liner.
Yeah. Oh,
it's my stuff. and I honestly think I got it from him. He's just really good at talking and listening to people and
that's cool.
Approaching it right. So
awesome. Okay. One quote.
I'll say one I heard from him actually recently. Fear is just false evidence appearing real. So it's an acronym and like it spells out fear, but I think a lot of times in life, when people are really afraid, it's because they have too much false evidence that they're focusing on. And what it does is it prevents you from taking the right steps and actions to overcome the different obstacles that come into your life. And I think a lot of times, like the obstacles that are in front of us or the problems, like some people like to look at them for so long and almost put them up in the clouds where they're just so big and they weigh them down that they can't do anything. But I'm kind of a believer that any adventure or any task or any monster you gotta slay, it's in your life for a reason, and you can do it as long as you're taking the best right small courses, breaking it up into small parts, and then attacking it forward. And I think if you do that, anyone can be successful. But fear, false evidence appearing real.
That's awesome. That's really cool. What gets you excited in life right now?
Dude, the fall. Honestly, right now, this is an amazing...
The fall's the best time of year for us.
Yeah, for what we do, like, it's the time when your phone rings a little less.
Yeah.
You've got, like, honestly, I feel like most people aren't like this. I love Halloween. I love it because everyone's still in town. You still got a ton of activities that people are going to. Like, you can go any time of the year to, like... And the funny thing about me is I never get excited in really big things, which it's always been since I was little. Like, I think people always get excited about like the big trip they're going on or the big thing they're going to buy. But for me, like, I get excited when like me and 12 friends are going to like go around a punch bowl and we're going to talk about how like someone did something crazy.
Yeah.
Honestly, I love a couple crazy people in my life because
Yeah.
they keep it fun.
Yeah.
So I just enjoy
Keep it light.
Yeah. Hanging out with people like that.
Dude, I feel like you're really good at that, keeping it light. One of my favorite things I noticed about Dawson when we first started talking is if you ask Dawson how he's doing, every time he's got something new. Like one time I think he said, dude, I feel like I'm just laying in a bed of roses right now. Like, dude, and it's funny and it keeps it light, even if we're in the thick of it in the summer and a lot of crap is going down, which happens. Dude, you just good at keeping it light, I feel like.
No, thank you. And I feel like you're good at seeing the whole picture on things. Like a lot of times I'll talk with guys in the middle of summer. Like let's say it's the middle of summer and people are getting flustered.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of times I've seen guys like lose their minds and kind of like just start burning bridges for themselves or for others.
Yeah.
One of your gifts though is like, and this might just be from experience, I don't know, but like when things aren't going well or things are going on, and that happens to anybody.
Yeah.
And anyone that's telling you that it doesn't.
Yeah.
Is like
full of it.
Yeah, come talk to me. But you're really good at when those moments arise, just being like, okay, I'm going to see this full picture. I'm going to do this and kind of go through.
Dude, but I do get a little too serious sometimes. Like I remember calling you and Austin. I'm like, Dawson, F this market. Like, dude, I've never seen so many no soliciting signs in my life. Like, why are we out here? But no, dude, you help it keep it light. So that was good for me. But okay, last couple questions, we'll wrap up. On your deathbed, what do you want to be known for, or what do you hope people will say about Dawson Scott?
Okay. And this might be a little bit of an alteration on that question.
Yeah,
but
you're good.
I'm just going to go for it. I hope I didn't miss the adventures God had for me. I think like a lot of times people get like, oh, I hope I get this or that. And there's a quote I heard about him like forever ago where it says, who God is far better than who we want him to be. And the moments in my life when I've decided that I'm going to do what I want to do, I've seen it go like it gets weird or funky, or down the road I realize that I'm not maximizing myself the most.
That's interesting.
And so I really like the moments. My favorite feeling or moment is when I feel like I followed that and I got to like the next level, if you will. I like when the video game feels like I'm like leveling up,
like you're on the right track.
Yeah. And so like, honestly, with my deathbed, I just hope that like I'm looking back and I'm like, there'll be opportunities I missed for sure.
Yeah. But
I hope until the very end that like, I'm like, okay, I got through the new trap door.
Yeah.
Where's the next one? Like,
right.
I just want to, more for myself. Like I want to be when I do this is another thing. I would like to be buried in some really nice shoes. So if you're at my funeral,
I'll be there.
Whatever's in, like I'll leave a safety deposit box, but just like make sure that they're putting me in some nice
shoes.
Yeah.
I love that. Dude, that's cool. How do you make sure, I guess, that you're like doing what God wants you to do? What do you say? Like, how do you check in that way?
And I think it changes. And that's one of the fun parts about it. Like, I think it's like trying to sit on a bowl. Like the best people can stand up for a while, but eventually you're going to get bucked off, and just figuring out, hey, how can I put my hat back on, get back up, and hopefully like next time I can last the 8 seconds I need to.
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't be fun if you could beat it.
Yeah.
There's always got to be a new level. I used to hate those video games when I was a kid, when you play and like you could always keep going, because I'm like, I can't beat it.
Yeah.
But I also think like I hate when I finish a movie series or like a book and then I'm like I want the next one.
Yeah.
And then like it's not there.
Right.
And that's what I love about life is like I think there's always a new thing. And when you think you've accomplished one sphere, my grandpa and me talk about this all the time, but like when you accomplish a goal, it feels amazing the day leading up, and then when you actually accomplish it.
Yeah.
But the next day, what happens? You're like, was that a big enough goal?
Yeah.
I don't know if I did it enough.
Yeah.
Oh, frick. Like maybe, well, next year I got to do double that.
Yeah.
And so the thing is like, I think it's the same thing in life. I hope in every category, I'm really, really good at chasing that next level. So,
dude, life's like the best video game. Like you can level up in all these different ways, and there's a scorecard to see how good you're doing. It's cool. Okay, last questions. Last question. If you had the world's attention for 5 minutes or 2 minutes, what would you want them to know?
By the world's attention. I would say slow down and remember what's really important. I think a lot of times we forget what's most important in our life because we're going a little faster than we should. And so I think if you can kind of reel back and the funny thing is a lot of times I think we look for deep things. Everyone's like, oh, I want something that's like going to freaking make my mind spin or like, and it's fun when you get those in life.
Yeah.
You get the occasional one-liner that you're like, whoa, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of simple truths sometimes that we miss in chasing like the next high or the next thing. And so I think like slowing down a little bit and just remembering what you should do and actually doing it is powerful. That's
really good.
So
that's awesome. Couldn't have said it better. That's really good.
Well, dude, one thing I just want to say, dude, like I've learned a lot just like watching you over the past like year. I've got to know you close like over the past couple of years. But one of the things that I've learned from you is two things. I've learned one, marketing. You're phenomenal at it. You're really good at like presenting yourself in a way that's like appealing to like a mass number of people, and also producing great content. Like I've watched several of your different pods with like Casey Baugh and other people. So I was like, dude, I'm just glad. Like I was like, fire. I'm like, dude, I'm not on any of those guys' level that you had on, but what you've got going here is seriously amazing. And then the other thing, like you're a great friend. I've seen a lot of times in pest control, you see like a lot of different like how deals are broken or stuff like that. But you care about people 360. And there's a lot of people that don't, but I've seen that from you, like on every angle. You want to make sure that your guys are growing, you're growing too, but like everyone involved with you and your friends. So the ones that you're working just alongside. And so,
dude, I appreciate that a lot. It means a lot. I try. I'm not perfect. I'm not where I want to be, but I try, and I know that I could get better. And dude, honestly, working with you, like you've taught me a lot too. Like, dude, you're just a dog, like, but you do it in a good way. Like you have good intent. You care about people. You work hard. You have big goals and dreams. You hustle, but you try to do things the right way. And like, dude, honestly, that's what like attracted me to start working for Bird. And I'm so glad I did. So.
Oh, love working with you, bro. Love you.
Love you too, bro. Well, awesome. This has been a lot of fun. Everyone needs to go follow Dawson Scott, see what he's doing. He's also got a podcast on YouTube exclusively, right?
Yeah, we need to widen up.
Go pull up. He just did a podcast with his uncle Greg Romney, who's a big mentor of his too, that you guys should all go check out. So awesome. We'll have to do this again too, again soon. But until next time, thanks, Doss, for coming out.
Dude, thanks for having me on. This is awesome.
Awesome. Peace out, boys.